Our human world operates to a large degree on agreements between individuals, between organizations, between nations. Whether it is the guarantee on your new washing machine or the vows of holy matrimony, we have dealt in one way or another with a covenantal relationship. The ancient world from which the Bible has emerged was also well acquainted with such agreements. But none of them was as important to the Hebrew people as its covenant with God, established first with Abraham and reestablished with God's people many times thereafter. Well, covenantal agreements only work in situations in which the participants are faithful to the terms. What were the experiences of the first covenant makers with God? What were the ways they sought to live out their faithfulness to this special relationship to God? Rabbi Randall M. Falk of Congregation Ohabai Shalom, Nashville, Tennessee, shares with us the unique perspective of the Jewish people through whom the biblical covenant of God was given its first expression.
Shalom. One of the most important words in Hebrew scriptures is berit, which means covenant. And it signifies the covenant that God made with Abraham and with our people from the earliest times, covenants which bound us to God, to serve him and to follow his law. But before we come to the covenant between God and Israel, there is the universal covenant found in the 9th chapter of the book of Genesis. And it shall come to pass when I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the cloud, that I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will look upon it that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. This is the universal covenant for the preservation of life, which reminds us today that man must revere life even as God promised its preservation throughout the ages. In Jewish tradition, we begin with two covenants that God established with Abraham, our first patriarch. The first was the covenant of circumcision. Abraham circumcised Isaac when he was 8 days old, and since that day to the present, we have circumcised our male Hebrew infants as a reminder of the covenant of life that God established with Abraham. Today, not only do we have the covenant sealed by circumcision for the male, but a special blessing ceremony for the female child as well, so that all of us together accept these initiatory rites as a basis upon which we serve God from the moment that we are born. Equally important is the covenant of the land. And God commanded Abraham, "Get thee out of thy father's house unto the land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation." From that moment on, Abraham pursued the long and tortuous journey toward his promised land. There, when he arrived, he entered into covenant with God, as we read in the 17th chapter of the book of Genesis. "And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed the land of thy sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God." Throughout the ages, Israel has cherished the covenant that bound them to God through the possession of this land, the land where they would serve their God, and he would enable them to live in peace and freedom. Equally important is the covenant of Torah, which God gave to Moses on the heights of Sinai. It was here that we received the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, which we find in this scroll, and which is in every synagogue even to this day. It is the summary of all the moral and ethical law that bound Israel to God and gave us a way of life to serve him and our fellow human beings. Torah provides for us the foundation by which we live. It is a challenge to every generation to renew our covenant with God, to live by his commandments, and thus for Torah to become, as it is described in the book of Proverbs, a tree of life to those that lay hold of it. And its supporters are happy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Listen now as Cantor Gutchen sings Eitz Chaim. It is a tree of life.
Eitz Chaim hi, l'machazikim ba, v'tomecha me'ushan, d'racheha d'archen ha'olam, v'chol netivoteha shalom.
These covenants of land and of Torah are as precious to Jews today as they were in ancient times. We rejoiced in 1948 when the United Nations established the State of Israel in our promised land, and there enabled millions of oppressed and persecuted to return to the homeland in freedom. Torah has always been for us a way of life, and it is today an opportunity to serve God and our fellow human beings by living according to his law and by transmitting it to future generations. This is what gives Israel a sense of chosenness. We are a chosen people, not for special privilege, but in order to transmit God's moral law to future generations, that we may look forward to a world of true freedom and peace, not only for ourselves, but for all humankind. And we renew in every generation the covenant as it was renewed by our prophet Jeremiah, when he spoke these immortal words, "This is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts, and in their heart will I write, and it will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord, for I will forgive their iniquity, and their sin will I remember no more. We glorify this covenantal relationship with our God as we praise him in a traditional song of our heritage, the Yigdal, praise to the living God.
We praise the living God, forever praise his name, who was and is to be forever the same, the one eternal God, before our world appears, and there can be no end of time beyond